We never should have gone to that mountain. It was the end of February when Andres and I decided to venture south of Mexico. We were looking for an escape from the noise of the city and a chance to immerse ourselves in nature. We had heard of a little explored mountain range, one surrounded by myths and legends, that the elders of the nearby towns only shared with their grandchildren. We didn't mind. We packed our backpacks, took provisions, and started the hike with full excitement. The trip was long, mostly because of the complicated travel connections. We knew we could fly to a nearby airport and take a taxi to a hotel, but first we had to get to Veracruz Airport. From there, we took a second-class bus to another town, where we waited for a colectivo, a shared taxi, to take us to an even smaller community. From there, we would begin our hike up the mountain. At the place where the taxi dropped us off, we didn't stay long. We just stopped at a store to buy water, batteries, and something light to eat. Everything else was in our backpacks, and we weren't planning to stay for many days. We asked what the easiest route was for traveling the circuit. A kind woman told us we had two options. The first was to follow a path she called La Rodeada, a safer, easier route, but with fewer scenic attractions. It was practically the same path used by the few people who had cars to move between communities. The second option was exactly what we were looking for: away from people, surrounded by beautiful nature, and free from noise. However, she warned us it could be dangerous. If anything happened to us, it wouldn't be easy to get help. Trusting in our experience and abilities, we decided to take that route. If you have any problems, go to Rosas. The people there can help you, the woman told us before warmly saying goodbye. Indeed, the path was the right choice, at least for what we thought we wanted. We walked for several hours, stopping often to take photographs and talk about how little time we'd had to see each other lately. We also talked about our families until suddenly, Andres' alarm started ringing. He has a habit of setting an alarm when he's out camping or hiking. It's always set for an hour before sunset, so he can return to camp before dark. We had walked quite a distance and didn't know exactly how far we were from where we had started, but we knew we were far enough that we needed to head back. So we decided to walk without stopping and look for Matarosas, the first town we could find. The town was small, with dirt roads and adobe houses. The inhabitants were friendly, but there was something strange in their expressions, a mix of curiosity and caution. They told us about the mountain and even offered us a place to stay in a nearby cabin. You can explore without worrying about the night, an older man with rough hands and a smile that never quite reached his eyes said. Something in his tone made me uncomfortable, but Andres, always more trusting, accepted their hospitality. That was when we met Myrta. She was a young woman dressed in white with flowers in her hair. There was something ethereal about her presence, something that drew us in immediately. She spoke enthusiastically about the mountains, describing them as a beautiful place full of hidden wonders. "I hope you can stay longer," she told us with an almost melancholic smile. She looked sad and nervous, as if she wanted us to follow her somewhere more secluded. However, she was never alone. An old woman with a piercing gaze, who seemed to be her mother, watched her constantly. Two older men, who appeared to be her brothers, were always nearby. There was something about the way they surrounded her that worried us. Not wanting to cause any problems, we moved away from her. When night fell, the town took on an even more unsettling atmosphere. The few lights in the houses were dim, as if they were about to go out. The night wind carried murmurs, suppressed laughter, and a dense aroma of burnt herbs. That was when we noticed the trees at the end of the road. Their twisted branches held strange figures made of bones and braided hair. Some had humanoid shapes with elongated limbs and grotesque faces carved into small animal skulls. Others looked like indecipherable symbols, swaying slightly in the wind as if they were watching us. At that moment, a man approached us. He was tall, with dark skin and empty-looking eyes. "I am the town's witch doctor," he introduced himself. Then he made us an offer. "For 5,000 pesos each, I will make you an amulet that will guarantee your safety. The mountain here is not a place for tourists," he said in a harsh voice. "But if you accept my protection, nothing will happen to you." Andres tried to politely refuse, but the sorcerer insisted, stepping closer, almost invading our personal space. The mountain takes what it wants. If you don't pay the right price, you may pay with something far more valuable. We've seen many like you succumb to the power of this place. I just want to help you return home safely." His tone changed, making our discomfort shift into fear. At dawn, without saying goodbye, we grabbed our things and left for another nearby town. This time, we were greeted with less distrust. When we checked our backpacks, we noticed that some of our belongings were missing: a knife, a flashlight, and most disturbingly, my notebook. We decided to go back to Killing Roses, but when we mentioned our plan to a man who had been helping us, he stopped us. "Don't go there," he warned, his voice heavy with an urgency that made my blood run cold. "It's the first Friday of March. Those people protect the mountain, and today is a very special day for them. Interrupting them would be a grave mistake." We understood that some places had traditions that needed to be respected, but that notebook contained very personal things, memories of happy and sad moments. And if I'm honest, it held things that, if revealed, could ruin my life as I knew it. So I had to go back. Let me know if you want further refinements. Your story is really intriguing. It has a chilling folk horror vibe. If you're posting this on your horror channel, you might want to tweak a few details to enhance the atmosphere. Yes or yes, we had to go back. So we ignored the warnings and returned, convinced that we had been robbed. We walked slowly as if, deep down, we didn't really want to return. Not out of fear, more than anything, it was because going back would take time away from what we really wanted to do. But what can I say? I'm very stubborn when it comes to personal things. It took a couple more hours to arrive, nearly 3 in the afternoon. I thought we'd just return to the place where we had slept, ask for my notebook back, and then get back on our route. But when we arrived, the atmosphere had changed. There were bonfires lit and people moving between the trees like shadows. The sun wasn't directly overhead, but from behind the trees, beams of light pierced through, marking the ground as if designating the exact places where people should stand. The townspeople looked strange, rushed, almost frantic, so we decided not to reveal ourselves right away. We hid in a thicket on a hillside, not wanting them to see us and take our presence as an offense. From there, we watched. It was something ceremonial. People in highly decorated clothing stood at the spots marked by the sunlight between those eerie trees. At the end of the path was the heart of the ceremony. Men and women in dark robes surrounded a stone altar. A young woman was tied up, her skin looking even paler under the dimming sun. The crowd murmured in a local dialect. Suddenly, they set fire to a circle with a star inside. The flames illuminated the faces of the people, and especially that of the young woman who was tied up. We immediately recognized her. It was Myrta. She looked at us, desperately trying to communicate something with her eyes. I remembered how uneasy her presence had made me the night before. Had she been trying to warn us? Had we ignored it? Was this some kind of play, a ritualistic reenactment, or were we witnessing something much darker? Andres looked at me in horror. I looked back at him, silently asking what we should do. Then, out of nowhere, a scream shattered our composure. The leader, the Tsutujil, as I later learned, plunged a blade into the town's offering. Myrta. The pure white cloth she wore began to darken with blood. The people raised their voices, chanting something only they understood. The main group lifted Myrta and placed her on the stone altar. This wasn't a theatrical performance. This was real, and we were witnesses. My mind spiraled uncontrollably. I felt dizzy, weak, on the verge of fainting. That's when Andres shook me and whispered urgently, "We need to get out of here. If they see us, they'll do the same to us." Somehow he supported me, and we began to walk stealthily. We knew the entire town was focused on their ritual, but we still had to be discreet. If anyone noticed us, damn that alarm. Andres had a habit of setting it every evening. The sudden sound broke through the night. A dog started barking. Children's voices whispered, then grew louder. We were going to be discovered. There was no time to feel sick. No time to hesitate, run, or become part of the rite. I don't remember how we escaped. I only know that we ran without looking back, the echoes of chants and voices chasing us through the darkness. By the time we reached another village, the town behind us trembled in the night. We couldn't explain what we had seen. Would anyone believe us? Or worse, would they have similar customs? Would we become a threat just by knowing? We decided to stay silent. We returned to the man who had warned us before. We planned to ask for a place to stay the night, but as soon as he saw us, he refused. "You can't stay here," he said, his voice heavy with finality. "They're going to bring you back. We have nothing to do with them." We understood immediately. We begged him for help. We told him we wanted to leave, that we'd pay him 10,000 pesos to get us to safety. The man didn't accept the money, but he did give us a way out. He showed us a camping route where we'd find a half-abandoned little house built by the park rangers. No one used it anymore because there wasn't enough funding to maintain it. Grateful for the information, we walked into the darkness, surrounded by trees and unseen things that only watched us. Further ahead, we found the small wooden house, barely standing. The roof was partially collapsed, but it wasn't going to rain. We didn't care. We just wanted to feel safe, if that was even an option. That night, I don't remember what we talked about. In fact, I don't know if we spoke at all. The shock was too great. We probably just sat there, silent, processing what we had seen, convincing ourselves it wasn't real, that it had all been part of some communal act. At dawn, we left. We returned home immediately, and we didn't speak again for 2 months. We needed time to process everything on our own. Today, my relationship with Andres is good again. But something has changed. That night altered our lives. Andres fell sick shortly after, an inexplicable illness that slowly consumed him. I've lost jobs, relationships, friends. A shadow follows me around every corner. A murmur whispers my name when I try to sleep. I feel her presence in the mirrors, in the windows, in the dark corners where the human eye should see nothing. I think she's there, punishing me for helping her when she needed it most. But I also think there's nothing I can do for her, and that what haunts me is not her spirit, but something else. Something born from the black magic of those people, using the knowledge they took from my notebook. Because the things happening to me are too specific, like messages from someone who knows my darkest secrets. Maybe we never should have gone to that mountain. But now it's too late to escape.